On Wednesday, November 23rd, 2022, I attended an event in Bugolobi in Kampala at which Elly Karuhanga was a chief guest. I hadn't seen Elly up close for over 5 years. On this event, I noticed his hair had aggressively receded and he was much thinner, and he held a walking stick to stand upright. When he stood to speak, he was a little unstable, and I asked him to speak while seated. Right there and then, a flood of memories of the Karuhanga that I had met when I was a young university student, the fellow we followed very closely and worked with in the Nyabushozi campaigns for the Constituent Assembly, the man I had seen perform excellently in the House on very many controversial subjects, a man who walked through these debates unscathed. All these memories came to my mind. I felt a tug on my heart that we should do something for Elly when he's still able to see and hear us. Now, the Spanish conquistadors, the Spanish conquerors, a fellow called Herman Cortes, who in the year 1519 invaded the country of Mexico, he had a habit of waking up very early with his band of raiders and walking around the Aztec settlements looking for and picking up the yellow dust, as the Aztecs used to call gold at that time. The Aztecs had no regard for the yellow dust because they thought you couldn't eat it, you couldn't use it for weapons because it was unstable, you could not exchange it for dowry and get a bride if you're a man, you could not exchange it for clothing if you're a woman. So as far as they were concerned, the yellow dust was useless. But one morning, they asked Cortes why he had to wake up early and pick this yellow dust. And Cortes, obviously hiding his intentions, he said, and I quote, "Where I come from, we suffer from a disease of the heart, and it is this yellow dust that cures our hearts," close quote. Cortes certainly knew what was of value, and the people seated on this value had no idea. This is often what I feel with the older people in our country. We skirt around them as if they have no value, yet at the time the country needs a sense of purpose, at the time we need to recast our institutions afresh to help young people see ahead better, older people are real gold. They are real yellow dust. Those who see the gold in them should affirm them daily, and I do this always. I do it without losing the purpose and value of the younger generation. For I know that a forest is only a forest when it has older trees and it has a seedbed for the future. After all, they are all trees at different stages, and they should learn from each other. It is that thought that came to my mind when I saw Elly in November last year. The question that tugged on my mind was, what can you do to use Elly and his generation as an example in mentorship to the young people by celebrating them when they are still here? Many of you might know this. Elly demonstrated great capabilities in the National Resistance Council, in the Constituent Assembly, and in the parliament that followed thereafter. He and his friends built a healthier NRM in the House than the one that came from the bush in terms of strengthening democracy. He left at a very prime age to go into full-time business so as to bring his skills to a larger field of play, the field of business, which creates jobs and pays taxes for the country. It is in this field Elly has been very resilient, often fighting off competition as if he was in his 30s, and bringing negotiation and legal skills to the oil and gas sector and generally the commodities sector. He has shown that you can build when you are both old and young, and you can help people see more in their lives. Therefore, I want to use the opening opportunity for this video to say thank you to Elly and all those who have done well, both in their decisions and actions for Uganda, and they are now in advanced stage. I want to use Elly as a point of contact. to thank Mzee Dandi Sali, who was an MP for a long time in Kampala, Mzee Matthew Chikeire, Mzee Elly Wakakoko, Mzee Kangwaje, Professors Mondo Kagonyera, Edward Rugumayo, Ephraim Kamuntu, Tarasis Kabwejere, Mzee Henry Chemba, Mzee Shemba Gaine, my very good friend Mzee Ernest Kakwano, and many others who I interact with across the country often. There are those who immediately are in the feet of the ones I have just mentioned. People like Honorable Ben Wacha, Amanya Mshega, Honorable John Nasasir, and many others. I just want you to know that we see you and we thank you for doing the best with your time when God gave you an opportunity to serve. As for you, Elly, may the Lord give you more years to impact and inspire. Have a wonderful 76th birthday celebrations. Thank you.
Yes, I met Honorable Dr. Elly Karuhanga about 60 years ago in our sunrise years of our lives in primary school at Chinoni. Then we went to Mbarara High School for secondary and eventually met in Makerere University. So we share a lot in terms of cultural background and aspirations. He was a very good friend of my late brother Alfred Tumwine, so we interacted very intimately. I knew Elly Karuhanga as a trailblazer, innovator, who really was a convergence point for friends in networking. I remember Elly really, when we went to bid farewell to the king of Ankole, Mugabe. He had been deposed by Milton Obote in 1967. So in Mbarara School we decided to buy some presents. A small group of pupils, we bought some presents and went to his palace and presented those presents. Then we exchanged some pleasantries and chats, and Mugabe was free with us. Then Elly Karuhanga, when we were winding up the discussion, he said, "But Rubambansi, why don't you resist being deposed by Obote?" For us, we thought that was too foolhardy. The king laughed and told us that, you see, ekituzi kukiba kyaligira omu itaka n'owo kukiteera stamp kirugarukayo. We laughed, but it could only take an Elly Karuhanga to ask a king such a question. That's one of the many lively conversations we have shared with this man. I also really acknowledge his great effort in making friends, a network. Many of the people that I have come to know in my adult life and who have impacted on my life, some of them I met them through Elly Karuhanga. People like Ezra Munyenyezi, who introduced me to Sudhir Vidyarthi, who became my printing partner in my publishing business. I met him through Elly Karuhanga, and I regard that as an important contribution in terms of making friends. He's a man who made friends across the board. He didn't have ethnic boundaries, cultural boundaries, or age boundaries. He had friends from all over the country, from all over the world, and I think that's a very big credit to him. I also appreciate his political ambition, but politics that were clean and serious, mission guided. I supported him when he decided to go for Nyarusozi constituency against many people who had tried to stand against him, because he had a very serious agenda. So I think that was also very important. And when his time came, he left the office. We share one important quality, wanting to help those who are less able. And he has supported many, many young people in this country and helped them to cross different bridges. I share that quality too, and I commend him for that. I have liked his attitude towards family life, and I hope his children will take up after him. I wish him all the best in his future life with his family.
Elly was born around the end of the 1940s, and he went to school with me in the early 1950s, and until I left him at the primary school in Karuhanga. I think Elly Karuhanga was 3 years behind me. He had a brother called Kafovero who was tall and handsome and who used to protect Elly Karuhanga because Karuhanga was a very delicate, lanky child, very brainy, very resourceful, very playful. Although Karuhanga was born with you could say, a silver spoon, he was not to be content with his birth privileges. He was not to be content with achievement. He still served as an MP. He still set up his law firm. He still set up Talo, and he is now a leading industrialist and business leader. But I must add also that he is not a selfish person. He has also mentored many young people into prominence, including Josam Taremwa, including MP Kajwenje now, MP for Nyabushozi, and many other young people. So he has lived a very exemplary life. He has been an eloquent, successful MP for over 10 years, and he has been a very good example to follow as an industrialist, as an entrepreneur. I must thank Stella, your wife, for taking very good care of you and your children who have already started excelling themselves in their area of specialization. Congratulations.
Elly, you've been a safe haven to very many people. I speak for very many young people at that time who got to know you at the time, and you became their mentor and friend. Fast forward, you went into exile and came back. I recall that the next time I interacted very closely with you was when I was working with you. We set up that company, TIC International, if you recall. That was a commodity supply company that was supplying commodities for the Rwanda genocide. I recall that's the time I worked with you very closely and got to see your leadership skills. We called you Longhorns as a call sign for our operations, and we scaled up those operations through your leadership, your quick decision making, your ability to negotiate with people and be able to make gains. I now work for the World Food Program, but much of my skill was through the mentorship that I had with you. We just say, God bless you. Thank you, Stella, for being the person you've been to Elly, and we thank you, all the kids. We are so proud that we see elements of Elly in each one of you, and you make us very proud. God bless you, Elly. Take care. We'll see you soon.
My name is Wilson Kajwenje. I am a member of parliament representing Nyabushozi constituency in Chirura district. This is a constituency that was ably and excellently represented in the NRC in the Constituent Assembly and the Parliament of Uganda by Elly, Karuhanga, Rutarendeza, Rwanyabushozi. What an opportunity I have had. It was an honor and privilege that I came into Elly's life. As a young man after my high school, I met him. Formative stage, I decided that I shall be a lawyer. He has had big impact and influence on my life. Elly, happy birthday to you. I am so sure that the influence, positive influence you have had on people, the inspiration you have had on Ugandans, the mentorship you have, the father figure, the statesman and leader you have been and continue to be, the leader in the legal profession, the leader in the oil and gas industry, the leader in private sector, the leader in business, the leader in diplomatic service, the leader in legislative prowess. God should reward you with the next 50 years. Strong, walking, talking, mentoring, inspiring, and the Ugandan that you are. I am proud of you for God and my country.
Happy birthday, Honorable Dr. Elly Karuhanga. It's a big privilege and honor to talk about you today. I first got to know Honorable Dr. Elly Karuhanga many years ago. I've known him better when I started work with him in PSFU. He asked me to represent him at an online virtual conference concerning the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And I went to represent him as chairman, of course, whereas I was CEO, but he asked me to speak on his behalf. But then he came online, he listened to me while I was speaking, and so I delivered his talking points. I spoke through the talking points that he had given me. And I didn't know he was there. So as we were concluding the conference, because it was, we had speakers from Ghana, from South Africa, from North Africa, from the Horn of Africa. We had some international speakers from the UN. So suddenly at the end of as the conference was concluding online, he came up to say something. He said, "Oh, I'm online, my name is Elly Karuhanga, I'm the chairman of the Private Sector Foundation." Then he said, "I'd like to pay tribute to the CEO of the Private Sector Foundation." And then he paid glowing tribute to me. I'm like, wait a minute, this is your thing. That night I didn't sleep. I was like a young boy who had just won a toy car, which had, it was so exciting to be exhorted by your chairman. And I think for me, I've tried to now begin to do that to the staff, to exhort them in the context that if my chairman can exhort me, I think it's important that I exhort the people that work with me or below me. And in life, we have three impressions. You have the first impression, you have a last impression, you have a lasting impression. My lasting impression of Honorable Karuhanga is one of being an incredible man, an officer, a gentleman, but most importantly, the most powerful person who brings out the best in you, and you are my hero.
I am Prince Andrew Tendo, an old friend, a childhood friend, and long-time comrade of Dr. His Excellency Honorable Elly Karuhanga Wairahi, Rutarendeza Rwanyabushozi. I met him in 1964 at Mbara High School when he was doing his senior 2, and I was an entrant, senior 1. But at school, Karuhanga, at high school, Mbara High School, was known for his acute brilliance, rather sharp brilliance. Actually, it was called blade, like a razor blade, razor sharp. Then we met at Makerere University. Both of us were at the Guild Representative Council, called GRC, meaning actually we were members of parliament for the university. But significantly, because politics in Uganda had been banned by Idi Amin, so Makerere became actually the beacon of politics, national politics. So we were pretty much members of parliament, where we contributed as legislators under the chairmanship of his, later to be his partner, Free Chairman Peter Kabatsi. We identified Elly Karuhanga for a greater role to become our guild president of the guild, of the university guild. He stood against a very prominent man, Emmanuel Tumusiime Mutebire. We, the pro-Karuhanga people, were called the liberals, the liberal Democrats. While the Tumusiime Mutebire's group, that included the former prime ministers Amama Mbabazi and Ruhakana Rugunda, were calling themselves the progressives, the socialists, etc. We were branded as capitalistic, monarchists, reactionaries, but we stood our course and actually put up a very steep competition, which, if it wasn't for the mishap that happened on the polling day, when Amin called the Asian community, who had given us the block support, but he called them for registering, because registering themselves precedent to their being expelled from Uganda. So we lost a block vote, and that's how Tumusiime Mutebire narrowly managed to defeat us. But Elly Karuhanga put up a very spirited fight with us as his supporter. As I have already told you that I was always 1 year behind, I did my third year, and there is nothing as frightening as penning off, graduating, and not knowing what to do next. So Elly Karuhanga was there for me as a soft landing, so I just crossed from North Kotor to his residence at Kitante Courts, where he gave me a room to begin with. So I thank him for the soft landing he gave me. My brother, Elly, we have been through life together. We have seen good things and bad things together. We have enjoyed great experience. Lately, unfortunately, you have not been doing well health-wise. But the brave and the fighter in you, I know. And with God's blessing as a Karuhanga, you will go through this difficult, roughest patch of your life. I wish you happy birthday belatedly.
Generally speaking, Honorable Elly Karuhanga is and has been a parent to very many, both from his area of Nyabushozi and the area he led for a long time, and Uganda at large. But particularly speaking from a personal point, some of us, as we started our journey, as we struggled to form up our political conscience, Elly Karuhanga was our gold standard. He set up the gold standard of political leadership. I remember as I was in my senior 5, senior 6 during the CA, I would take a walk all the way from a relative's apartment I was staying in around Equatorial Hotel to go to the conference center gallery to watch Elly Karuhanga articulate issues. From then, I drew my inspiration from the man Elly Karuhanga. I struggled all the way to meet him. And the day I met Elly Karuhanga, when I was a student at Mbarara University, that's when I knew that my I had been politically formed up, if I may use that word. He helped us to understand the movement system. Because at that time, there were strong divergent views in universities. Unlike today, where political debates have been reduced to heckling, to insults, to radicalism, there was a lot of, it was more of substance as opposed to form. Elly Karuhanga, the late Noble Mayombo, Norbert Mao, Okwiri Rabona and the like, they would find us in our universities. One side of people like Mao were strongly opposed to the movement politics. They were saying the movement system is a one-party state, it is stifling people, the individual merit is strange to democratic known principles. Elly Karuhanga helped us to distill and understand the principles of the movement, the inclusiveness principle, and he helped us to expose us to the politics of accommodating everybody. He set the gold standard of leadership. He set the gold standard of having a big heart. He set the gold standard of not getting tired, of being patient with everybody. I am part of what I am because of that influence. Thank you, Elly. We love you. Thank you for giving us amazing children. They are not only your children, but they are great cadres. We are proud of them. But all I know is that you're still here with us. I pray that God gives you more and more years, because we still want to tap from that source of wisdom that God gave you.
Happy 76th birthday, Honorable Dr. Elly Karuhanga Rutarendeza, my twin. Maybe people don't know why I call Honorable Elly my twin. Honorable Elly, whom is Kakuru, was born on the same day and in the same month with me. But me, Kato, I was delivered 5 years later. We knew all this when we came for swearing in as members of parliament, then called the NRC in 1989, when we were going to represent our twin constituencies. Nyabushozi, again as Kakuru County, and Kazo as Kato County. As a member of parliament for 12 years, representing Nyabushozi, whenever you stood up, the front bench, the back bench, and even the opposition members would be alert to listen to you because of your eloquence, because of your command of the language, because of the command of the subject and the issues. I want to thank you and congratulate you for starting one of the biggest and most effective legal firm, KAA, which has also made its impact in Uganda and beyond. But we have not stopped there, Elly. The next thing I heard, you were a chairperson of the Private Sector Foundation. And the years you served there as chair, you brought that Private Sector Foundation to another level that we had never seen. Again, a great impact for the private sector. But that was not enough. I don't remember any oil or minerals that you have been associated with, but as soon as you took over as the president of the Chamber of Oil and Gas and Minerals, you enlightened us as Ugandans. You fought battles for Uganda to start exploiting its oil. And now, as drilling starts, personally, and for those who have heard you defend the oil development, talk about what we need to develop the oil industry, whether it's from production for oil, whether it's employment for oil, whether it's the laws, whether it's what kind of agreements. One would think that you grew up in Saudi Arabia or maybe Kuwait. You have been a wonderful husband and father, and I want to congratulate my sister-in-law, Stella, and the children for giving you all the support in whatever you have been doing. Let me also thank you, Elly, for training and mentoring many, including the very Audric Ruabogo, who passed on the invitation. Your zeal, your energy, and your commitment to this country, of which you made your own contribution towards its liberation. You will continue to serve it. 76 years is nothing, and therefore I wish you many, many years of impact, impact, impact. Elly the lawyer, Elly the diplomat, Elly the farmer, Elly the entrepreneur, Elly the etc, etc, etc. Remain the Elly, remain the man of impact, and may God bless you.
I thought that was super brilliant. A round of applause. Believe you me, Elly, this room is full of conspirators. All of us except you, but all for the better. Before I invite the next speaker, first of all, I'm going to have the opportunity to do that. But before I invite you, society grows stronger when elders plant trees whose shades they know too well they will never use. Thank you for planting trees. Permit me to have this great opportunity to invite none other than Chairman Mao, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, the man who changed from this to this, but also who has walked a long distance with Elly, especially the political path. I thank you. Honorable, welcome him with a round of applause.
Delegated guest of honor, very special to me in many ways. I'm also his son. Our elders, dear friends, you've probably heard this story I'm going to share briefly many times. In the days of the Roman Emperor Nero, he convened his friends at the Colosseum to indulge his favorite sports, watching lions eat Christians. There were some people challenging his authority. He invited all his friends to watch. So then he unleashed one of the lions on one Christian. When the lion charged, this Christian grabbed the lion by the neck and appeared to be whispering something into its ears. And the lion turned its tail and went back into the cage. So the man was embarrassed and he said, bring a lion that has not eaten for a week. And the same thing happened. And then he said, bring one that has not eaten for 2 weeks, because the embarrassment was becoming too much. The emperor was sweating. His guests were wondering what sort of comedy this is. He had promised blood and there was no blood. So a hungry lion that had not eaten for 2 weeks came, charged. The Christian grabbed it by the neck, whispered something into its ears, and the lion went back. To redeem his image and reputation as an emperor, he called the man to the high table and asked him, please tell these crowds, what have you been telling my lions? And the Christian said, sir, I've been telling the lions there will be speeches after dinner. Nobody loves speeches after dinner. So those of us speaking after dinner, we are in a very undesirable position. And that is the spirit in which I address you. Because like lions, they rather not eat, rather than if eating means enduring long speeches. It's only Odrek who could organize a purported birthday which turns out into a legacy conference. I thought we were going to see balloons. They are not here. Instead, it has become a kind of reunion. So this legacy gathering is really for leaders and aspiring leaders. I dare say tonight, in the Republic of Uganda, the Rwenzori Ballroom has the greatest gathering of cerebral material per square meter. Just look around. I don't think there's any sport in Uganda today which has this greatness per capita than this room. We are celebrating the Honorable Elly Karuhanga. And, sir, if ever you doubted your convening power, you've got your answer today. These are people who are very difficult to get out into town at this time of the night. You have did it. It is a reunion. There are many people that haven't met for long. Everybody has a story about everybody. And I'm sure the few of us who have been given the privilege to speak can only do justice to the opportunity by speaking in general terms to such an extent that we should be representatives of everybody. You have used well what God gave you. We always say the opportunity of a lifetime must be used during the lifetime of the opportunity. I'm also speaking about myself. Opportunities have expiry dates. And if you squander them, I believe that applies to all of us as individuals. It even applies to governments. God gave you opportunities, and in the lifetime of those opportunities, you have morphed from what we call achievement, which is basic, to greatness, which is a little higher, and now today we celebrate your significance. Not everybody is significant. That's what somebody called a lasting impression. You remember when I hunted you down as a young man fresh from Makerere University, 24 years old, asking you to come and speak at a gathering of young people under an umbrella that I call the Youth Alliance for Development and Cooperation, YADCO. And you graciously accepted. As I was struggling to find my position, my efforts at getting jobs was not very successful because of some record I had made somewhere else. People were a bit suspicious. Even my attempt to become a state attorney ended in failure, and now guess where I sit? God has a sense of humor. You made Nyabushozi a household name. You know, constituencies get known depending on how the representatives perform in the House. There are some constituencies we will never know. We just have a body of an MP, but really nothing beyond that. Even those of us who come from places where we pronounce it Nyabuchoji, we connected with you. Some constituencies are only being known these days. Recently, I heard President Yoweri Museveni saying he discovered the Ik people. I thought all the communities had been discovered. Then he said he also discovered the Banyabindi. Through you, Ugandans discovered Nyabushozi. And even sometimes the speaker would simply say, Nyabushozi. And you became Nyabushozi because you personified Nyabushozi. You exhibited integrity. Of course, people want to go to the dictionary and say, what's integrity? Is it about corruption, money, and so on? But it's really as simple as choosing to do what is right rather than what is convenient. You were never afraid to be in an uncomfortable place. Like many of the people in this room who embraced some of us, because when I look around the table, I see so many people who lifted me up. I hope one day I will be in your position to tell my story. Hillary Clinton wrote a book called It Takes a Village. Now, villages have elders. And through the elders, the young people are formed. That's a word from Catholic seminaries. They don't say they train priests, they say they form. It is almost a biblical word that God formed human beings. You have passed on that sound vision, a readiness to take responsibility, compassion, which we have all enjoyed, but more importantly, ability to manage success. Most people cannot survive at high altitudes. It is worse when you bloom very fast, like some of us. If at 28 you are being sworn in as an MP, at 38, I decided to leave Parliament. Because sometimes your head can swell. And there's a difference between swelling and growing. Many people, when they achieve success, they don't grow. They swell. Swelling is quantitative, growing is qualitative. You have held all these big titles, but you have remained the same. Talking to all of us as if we were your equals. We would even joke, I used to call him Mr. Denton, because he was having some partnership with a Denton law firm, a very big international firm. So I decided that he was Mr. Denton because I did not know Mr. Denton. So, how can we manage success? As individuals, as institutions, even as governments. People lose it. It is possible to lose it. And Uganda today is led by a very successful leader, a very successful political organization. Now it has the problem of managing its success. It is now face to face with its success. You know, hunger can make the stomach grumble. Too much satisfaction can also make the stomach grumble. Failure is a problem. Success can also be a problem. So today you are a case study. You are under the microscope. And I want to thank Audrek, Eva, the journalist, sniffing things, seeing under the iceberg, and deciding that you are a symbol of the many Ugandans. So why are we not proud of our country? This country was built on your dreams. You were here, who are in your 70s. The dreams you had when you were young and energetic and fiery. So what are the dreams of today's young people? Is it what Professor Mamdani called 1, 2, 3, 4? 1 wife, 2 children, 3-bedroom house, and a 4-wheel drive? Full stop? Or do we want to be the true pearl of Africa? Let me close. We have a bishop here. We are told not to follow bishops, but to follow who the bishops are following, because bishops are human. So if we ask who are our role models, I hope when you get to speak, you'll tell us about your role models. We really want to know them. Who are those who inspired you? Now that you have inspired so many, so who inspired you? Dead or alive? You have been a leader. Like all leaders, you think, you worry, you hope, you hesitate, you commit, you exult, you regret, you reflect. That's the mix of leadership. Every day we make choices. You made a choice to leave Parliament. You remember I visited you, and I said, there is no way, for we have not accepted you are going. We dragged you to come to stand for Iyala, and I was your biggest promoter waving your poster. I even came to where you are seated and said, I want to contribute to your speech. I even told you, you must be the first speaker of Iyala. But God had other plans, diverted you to come and fight for this oil thing, diverted you to build a private sector, diverted you to show that Uganda can have a law firm that can compete globally. What a big heart. And when you lost that election, you were so gracious. But we lost. I still think we lost. One anecdote. A motion was tabled that there should be an inquiry into the conflict in northern Uganda to determine why it has taken so long. And the government said, this is a live wire. We are not touching it. The UPDF is doing enough. Government cares. And the house was divided. Those of us who came from where the conflict was were threatening all sorts of things, including creating another republic. The Prime Minister, Professor Apollo Nsibambi, didn't know what to do. Should we not? What's the government position? We wanted a select committee. The polarization was threatening the unity that we had in that movement house. It took the ingenuity of the Honorable Elly Karuhanga to go to the lobby with the movers of the motion, some of whom are here, seated around there. To tell the Prime Minister, as the leader of the House on the side of government, that let's find a middle ground. Government rejects a select committee because it means a hodgepodge of totally new people. Rather, we are assigning the inquiry to the Committee of Defense and Internal Affairs. That was the great Elly Karuhanga compromise. Some of us felt that, oh, this country loves us after all. Our issues are now here. Because they say diversity is having a seat at the table. Inclusion is being heard. Sometimes you can have a seat, but your voice is not being heard. So you move from having a seat at the table, which we had. We had a voice, but was our voice being heard? The Honorable Elly Karuhanga heard that voice and said, what do we lose? Let Ugandans talk. Even generals who were fighting the war came and spoke. You remember them. It opened up the debate on the war in the north. It means you are not stuck to principles, but you are also pragmatic. When are you sticking to your principles and when are you pragmatic? If I were to place you as a character in Things Fall Apart of Chinua Achebe, I would say you are Obierika. We have Okonkwo's in this country who are too rigid, totally devoid of pragmatism. So, through those choices that you made, and it was thanks to your brilliance, we were reshaped. Many of us were reshaped through that. Because some of us were always saying things which always got back echoes of negativity. We were so much booed because we were telling things that were unpalatable. Please talk to the rebels. How do you talk to those who are cutting off people's lips and so on and so on? But the Honorable Elly Karuhanga would come after I've been booed by the entire house, embraces me and say, if you feel in your heart that you are right, insist. You gave me hope. And you contributed a lot. And when one time you said on TV, I pray for the day when someone like Norbert Mao is in government. Here I am. Thanks to you. To the young people, it is all about purpose. I don't think you are going anywhere. The Honorable Elly Karuhanga that I know, I don't think you are going anywhere. You are the mother of all fighters, and you have that rock of Gibraltar beside you in the form of Stella. And you have given to Uganda a son of Elly, appropriately named Ellison. I heard him blasting the climate change fanatics on BBC. I almost wanted to take him a Democratic Party membership card. That's the only politics I'm going to say. So to the generation of Ellison, stick to that purpose. Now, how do you find your purpose? Let me unpack it through a story, then I sit down. Young men wanted to get some wisdom from an old man, like the many we have here. So they followed him wherever he went. Tell us what's the secret of finding ourselves. How can we succeed? For weeks and months, the old man did not release any secret. Then he told them, follow me. He took them to the lake. Then grabbed one of them and pushed his head under the water up to the point of almost choking to death. Then he brought him up for air. Then he asked him, when your head was down there, what were you thinking about most? The young man said, I wanted air in my lungs. Were you not thinking about these nice cars and big houses? No, sir. I just wanted air. Then he said, the day you are pursuing your purpose to the total exclusion of everything else, the way you wanted air in your lungs, you will be unstoppable. Thanks to you, many of us will be unstoppable. And Uganda will be unstoppable if we continue to be inspired by people like you and those who have gathered here. May God bless you.
Can we have another round of applause? Ladies and gentlemen, if you remember, I notified you about Honorable Mao's oratory skills, and I'm sure that the reality has come to pass. Thank you so much, Honorable Mao. We are really grateful. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take an opportunity to welcome you yet again for this event. And I would now want to take the honor of inviting a gentleman who has so far served 84 years of excellence, Mzee Matthew Richikaire, to come and speak to us on behalf of all the Bagurusi here. Thank you so much. Now is your time, sir. Welcome. Mzee Richikaire is representing all the elders here today.
Elly and Stella, I do not know where to start in recognizing the other people who are here, but I want to recognize Amama Mbabazi, the representative of His Excellency, and all the ministers, members of parliament, and also most especially the retired Chief Justice of the Republic of Uganda. Elly and I are not really in the same age group, very nearly but not quite. He's celebrating his 76th birthday, and in October this year, I'll become 85 years old. So there is a small gap. And yet there are so many things that Elly and I share. And I want to speak about one or two or three of them. Elly, in 1981, when the National Resistance Movement launched the Bush War, although finally the people, the 27, including Jack there, who gathered at my house in Makindye, used mine as a place where to start from, having been there for about 3 days. There was so many other gathering centers where these soldiers or young men were collecting so that they could be brought to my house for the final departure for Kavamba. Elly's home was one of them. So was Ruakakoko's and some other places, Tendo. And I've mentioned these in my book, 70 Years a Witness, which I hope some of you may have been able to read. Soon after launching the Bush War, some of us, with the agreement of our leader, President Museveni, left to start another war outside the country, and we eventually formed what we called the External Committee. Elly was one of the prominent people who joined hands with us. Myself, Ama Mbawazi here, Dr. Rugunda, and so many others. So my relationship with Elly was really consolidated in Nairobi. But in spite of the difference in years, we had been brought together by a common cause. Elly didn't stay very much in Nairobi with us. He took off and went to Southern Africa. And Southern Africa became one of the launching pads for the external support for the Bush War and the struggle. And I'm glad to say that Elly was preeminent among the people who mobilized the whole of Southern Africa to support the cause of the national resistance movement. I want to thank you again, Elly, for that role which you played. In the English language, there are many words which we use, but we are never able to reach the depth of what we mean in our hearts. And this applies also to our vernacular languages. When you say somebody is good, we usually qualify it by saying, I don't have enough words to express what I mean. So I want to say that Elly is a good man. He is a good human being in its purest form. And I want to say it in all seriousness. It's the most important defining characteristics of Elly. He has done many things, some of them which I've enumerated. He's the head of industries. He's played a role as a member of parliament, and so on and so forth. But basically, Elly is first and foremost a good human being. John Nasasara partly touched on one thing: the rhetorical quality of Elly. Whenever I see Elly and meet him somewhere, I'm reminded of Mark Antony in Shakespeare when he addressed men and said, men, friends, countrymen, I have not come here to praise Caesar and so on. This was the greatest speech of Mark Antony in his life. This was in Julius Caesar, the little book. Elly is a fantastic orator. He could be described as one of the best orators in the world. And I'm saying this because I know English very well, and I try to speak it well. Therefore, I understand when people speak English and the substance which they use to convey the sense of what they want to say, I can make a judgment. Elly, you are a great speaker. And this is a quality which God gave you. In the parliament, at one time, him and Captain Mukula, Cecilia Guar and others actually dominated the parliament. The rest of us couldn't speak because of these people. Because they had the quality of what they wanted to say. They had the medium to convey it. But above all, they meant what they wanted to say. Elly was in his own league. He was special as a speaker. So Elly, I want to really thank you very much for reaching the age of 76. I want to thank Stella for looking after you, making you get there. And I want to thank Audrey Ruavogo for inviting the elders to come and celebrate with Elly this very important day. But even more importantly, and this is in the interest of the younger people who are here, for the elders to be able to impart and say something to the young people, to know and get a message from the elders about the future of the country, which you are going to be the leaders of. So it is important. Audric, Ruavogo, thanks very much for inviting us. Thanks very much for bringing us together. And thanks very much for being able to say what you have said about your friend, Elly. Elly has got a long history. He's got a short life compared to some of us, but he's got a long history of performance in a number of ways. Sometime in 1970s, early, he fought one of the most grueling battles for the guild presidents at Makerere with Emmanuel Tumusiime. He was depicted as a monarchist. Him, as Mbabazi, Honorable Mbabazi will explain better, him and Lugunda. Emmanuel Tumusiime was depicted as a socialist, even almost a Marxist. These labels actually didn't stick, because neither of them was what they said they were. And if either of them believed they were what people thought they were deceiving themselves. Because the difference between Emmanuel Mutebire and Elly was zero, non-existent. And eventually, when we took over this country and we started participating as leaders, Elly and Emmanuel had total identity in where this country was going to go. When Mutebire passed on recently, one of the biggest moving tributes given upon the passing of Mutebire was from Elly. And we are busy writing a book because we have a foundation called Tumusiime Mutebire Foundation, and I'm the chairman of it. Ama Mbabazi is a member. Dr. Kaberuka is a member. We are persuading the governor of the Central Bank of Kenya to become a member because we want this organization to become East African based. But I wanted to say that on several occasions when Elly and several other people visited Mutebire's home when he was still governor, and we were trying to organize a foundation, we didn't know Mutebire was going to die. Even if he had lived, this foundation was going to be started. We never had a meeting without Mutebire telling me that if this meeting is going to take place, Elly must be there. That's how deeply he respected you. And so, elders, my colleagues, and young men, today must be celebrated as a great day to honor the life of our friend Elly Karuhanga, and to recognize the mammoth contribution he has made to this country. And we hope that the young people gathered here and those who hear what we are saying and those everywhere It has given us opportunity to tell you, the young, this country is in your hands. We have tried to run it. We have done certain things very well, but we have also made some mistakes. It is your responsibility to correct these mistakes and to listen to what the elders have been able to tell you and what we will continue to tell you in the future. Thank you very, very much. Happy birthday, Elly, and may God give you a long life.